Get Pucked. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Pucked podcast. Dave, Vito, and Matt here with you. It's been a little bit of time, gentlemen. How we doing?
Fantastic.
Great. Better than fantastic.
My goodness. All right. I got a good feeling about this one, gents.
Ooh.
I want to talk about, straight into it, if I may, there's a player, and he's on everybody's mind. Everybody's talking about him. When we talk about the Montreal Canadiens, we talk about who, if, when, whom are they going to be going out and acquiring this offseason. One guy keeps coming up, and that guy is Martin Necas. And please don't kill me about the pronunciation of the last name. I'm terrible with names. I know it's not necessarily how he says it, but let's just go with it. So let's talk about Martin Necas for half a second. A lot of fans talking about it. A lot of media types are also focusing on him. So let's get the facts out there before we dive in. Martin Necas is 25 years old. Martin Necas is 6'2"-ish.
No.
Well, some places 6'2", some places 6'1". I'm not going to split hairs. I'm going with the place I read first, which said 6'2". He's about 190. He is a former 12th overall pick from 2017. His highest point totals was a season ago. He hit 71 points last year. However, he hit only 53 in 77 games. So, right out the gate, the first thing I want to ask you, gentlemen, is, in your opinions, and only your opinions, is Martin Necas the primary target that the Montreal Canadiens should be trying to acquire to bolster that top six? Who wants to take a shot at this first? Dave, you go.
I say go, Dave.
All right. I would say no. No for primary. I mean, look, he'd be a good fit with the Canadiens. There's no doubt about it. I think you're going to have to overpay for him. I think there's a lot of teams that are interested. I think his value is probably for him an all-time high. And I think it'll cost money to get him. And again, I look at the type of player, and yeah, don't get me wrong, Martin Necas on the Canadiens will be a good addition, and he'll fit in within that roster, and he'll provide some goals. But again, not a point-a-game player. Only hit 70. He's almost 26 years old, I think. Only hit 70 points once. Had a regression last year. Not a 30-goal scorer. It's, to me, a little bit more of the same of type of player that, like, you don't want to sell the farm for, man. Like, and it's going to cost a lot of money to get him. I know you guys are going to throw these picks and these things that nobody really wants, and it's not going to make it work. And
hold on a second. Just the player. We're going to talk about what it might cost to get him in a second. But the player himself, you said, yes, it'd be nice, but not a priority. This isn't the guy. Okay. That's
if the Habs get him, it doesn't turn he's not the wow guy that this Ken Hughes, regime has brought in. They need to go out and get somebody. They need to go out and get, and it's funny to me. Like, we talked about Mitch Marner, it's like, and then it's like, oh, Martin, and again, it's the focus on these good, above average, good players. But like, we want superstars, man. It's time. It's been years. We're starved for it. There's the cap room for it. There's the assets to go get them. It's time. It's time to stop making these same type of move. It's okay to go get him plus. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. But to say, like, oh yes, you're going to win a world, it's a home run. It's the perfect move to go get Necas from Carolina. To me, it's just more of the same a little bit. Don't get me wrong. The potential is there, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. But to me, it's lacking it's the exact type of player that they always get. Super overhyped because he fits in the Canadian organization. Like everybody, same thing with Josh Anderson. Oh, look at the potential. Fits in perfectly. Big guy.
Always going back to poor Josh.
But there's a litany of players that are like this. This is the exact mold of players that he could turn into something better. And I get it. The Canadiens are kind of building this type. He would fit with the Canadiens. Don't get me wrong. He would. Yes. But you asked me if it should be a priority, and my answer is no.
That's very fair and made abundantly clear. Thank you, Dave. Vito, what do you think?
Aim higher. You gotta aim higher eventually, man.
I legitimately think.
But who's available at higher?
Who's available? Vito, do you agree that every year there's a star player?
Now, let's go.
There's a star player that moves, or 2 star players that moves, or 3 star players. Star players move all the time, and the Canadiens never get them. And it's always because of this attitude. Oh, who's available? Who's available? That's not my job to see who's available. It's Ken Hughes.
Which 90 to 100 point player has been available to be able to go and trade and not, and you're gonna have to pay a king's ransom for.
Jack Eichel is that. You can.
But most of those players have chosen their destinations or had the ability to choose their destinations, and Montreal's not at the top of their list.
Okay, but make it a priority. Build a culture where you will be at the top of that list.
Well,
and what?
They are building a culture, and I think Montreal is becoming more attractive to come to as an organization. I don't think they're quite there yet. I think Marty St. Louis and people like that, and what Kent Hughes has been doing with the players, is making it more attractive. But to suggest that Martin Necas shouldn't be a priority, I think he should be a priority. Again, depending on the cost. Okay, the priority. If yes.
Okay, to be fair, to bring it back for a second, it's the priority because I believe it's been said and pretty much everybody knows that their priority is getting a top 6
and he is a
producer.
top 6. He's a top 6 point producer.
So
he's
the guy that would fit that priority. Yep.
He's a guy in Carolina that was miscast and producing on a third line, basically, and given a third line role when he shouldn't have even been there. He shouldn't have even been on the third line. Okay, he does have another step to his game. We can see it. He's had a productive season last year in 71 points in 82 games. He's scored quite a few goals. He would be an ideal fit on Montreal. Is he the guy that's going to carry the team on his back and go with it? No. But if you look at the structure, the way Montreal Canadiens are building it, it's about being a well-balanced team who can produce across the board. Would I love to have a very high-end, top, elite talent that you look at and you say, this person's going to be a shoo-in for 90 to 100 points? Absolutely. Who wouldn't want that? But those guys don't fall off trees. And they're not around. They're not around all the time. So, yes, we're hearing the rumors around Mitch Marner and whatever, but that guy literally controls his fate. He decides whether he wants to go or not. And by the way, Martin Necas just turned 25. He turns 26 in January. So...
Okay, that's like 20 games into the next season, man. Like,
he still has. I think if he's producing 70 plus points or has produced 70 plus points
once.
But even in last season, it was 53 points in 77 games.
Yeah, less than Mike Matheson. Congratulations.
Playing on the third line.
Okay, but hold on. But just to be clear, it was once, and if you do the projection of a full 82 game on his season last year, he doesn't hit 70 again.
Yeah, he missed 5 games, man, and he's 17
53
points away.
Yeah, but you could also look at. I'm looking at his numbers right now. You could also look at it that he's had 41 and 53. He's had 40 and 78. Okay, again on the third line, and so on. Like there's something there. There's an extra step that you can see it, and even the Carolina Hurricanes organization believes it, but they have other players ahead. Now, you're talking. It depends the price tag too. I said last episode, which was about 2 weeks ago, that it would cost between just on the salary to get once you get him to sign him would be about 7.5, maybe Caulfield's contract, and those are the numbers that you're starting to see on X now too that are going around. That whoever were to acquire Necas is going to have to pay him that. I'm willing to pay that amount of money between 7 and 7.5 million. If I were the Montreal Canadiens, I'd be willing to pay for a guy like Necas and slot him right away as a right winger in the top 6. He'd be an ideal fit.
So money. Put the money aside for half a second, because I think they can make any money work. It'll be a matter of taste for certain people. If they were to get him, it's not going to be in the 8s. He will be probably somewhere in the 7s for 7 years. I think it will be like that. I think most people are on consensus like that, and maybe he deserves it. I'm not even going to go down that road. What would it take to get him? Because that's the bigger question to me. Martin Necas, like Dave, is not the sexy name to me. Do I want a Martin Necas on the team? Yes, I do. To your point, Vito, yes, I do. I think he makes the team better. I think he should be looked into, like apparently it's been out there. Kent Hughes kicked the tires over there and said, what would it cost? Absolutely, you do this. But I still have reservations about, like Dave is suggesting, if they have to sell the farm to get this guy. That I don't like. So now tell me what you would do to get him. What is your package to get him?
This is where I think we're all going to agree. They're going to ask for a king's ransom right now, especially with all the other teams trying to kick tires. And right now, they're probably asking the 5th overall. That's a no-go.
No, I think that would be ludicrous to even ask.
I'm not paying a 5th overall for Martin Necas.
One sec. One thing I should add is, because it has been reported, they don't want a prospect. They want a bona fide
Yeah, for
player
sure.
back.
But I'm saying I'm thinking that they're gonna probably want the fifth plus somebody who could fit in right away. That's where I think they're at right now.
Fifth plus a player for Neat. Yeah,
that's
okay, well,
that's where I think that, especially because of the whole thing between Montreal and Carolina, I just think that that's what they would ask for Montreal right now.
even still with a different management there, you think they're still going to do it?
that
Like they
general
still
man-
hold
that
harbor
owner-
those feelings?
That owner's petty. He's petty.
I mean, they got a new GM. We got new GM. That's like a whole new thing. You think it's really like it's the owner is still like the.
I think
like,
the deal could be had, obviously, but I'm with Vito on this, and it's going to be too expensive. And look, everybody wants to trade Jordan Harris, the late first round pick. Like that's not going to get him, man. Sorry, forget it. So we have to admit at what the cost is going to be, and if you're willing to pay that cost. And I'm not willing to pay that cost. If you can get it on a discount and can get an amazing deal, I just don't think it's going to happen. He's a highly sought after guy. And if I'm Carolina, no, again, don't make me point the sign. GMs are dumb. But this GM is a new GM coming in. He's going to have to win this trade. And
I just want to add too, and I think that for people who are going to suggest, oh well, include the Winnipeg pick. I don't think the Winnipeg pick is high enough to get a Martin Necas, even Winnipeg pick plus something else. Because I think other teams that are ahead of Montreal in that order from the Winnipeg pick, that pick will hold more value. So there's going to get some. There might be a team that's drafting 13, 14, 15, and 16 somewhere in there that is going to add that in addition to something else. And Montreal, Winnipeg picks just not enough.
I'm gonna look at it from a different perspective. I'm gonna buy into what is allegedly coming out of the Carolina camp. I don't think they want to pick. I don't think it matters what pick you throw at them. I don't think they want it. I think they're in win now mode. They don't want a high pick. They want a player. I think that they're about to lose a lot on their blue line. And the name that you keep seeing out there is Mike Matheson. And I think that the conversation starts with Mike. He's 30. It's still young enough. He had a monster season. If you get Matheson, and it would probably be a plus because there's no way it's a 1-for-1. I think that's a conversation that they're having. Now, I don't know if I would want to even do that, let alone if Carolina would do that. I don't know. But I think that that's the guy that we have to talk about if there's going to be a trade.
I think people are connecting those dots because Carolina is losing a few defensemen, especially when you hear definitely she's name and all that stuff. So that's where that's a piece that could come in right away that helps on the defensive side because that's their biggest need in Carolina. Because they still have Seth Jarvis and all of those names, and they
but also look at the points
and Gensel and all of those guys, right?
Like Dave mentioned, Mike Matheson scored more points technically than Necas last year. So imagine you're getting a need filled, and you're replacing points and then some of a player that you're about to ship, or a player that you're not looking to re-sign.
The thing is that if you move Mike Matheson now, is Caden Gooley ready to take the next step to eat up the minutes or to be the productive guy that Mike Matheson has been?
Yeah, so that's the interesting part of the angle. Hypothetically, if this is the scenario where it's Matheson and maybe something else to get Necas to come back, it kind of makes sense. The dollars and cents kind of make sense. So now you got to look at it from the Canadiens' perspective. And this is where I think things are interesting because I see half of the fan base that are like, yeah, throw Mike Matheson to the moon. He's never going to be hotter and better than he is now. Go use him, get something, bolster the top. We have enough defense coming in. We have guys there. Our younger guys on defense are already seasoned a bit now with a couple of years behind them. They don't need that kind of veteran presence. You still have Savard. Make this happen.
I think Savard might move this offseason.
What's that?
I think Savard might even move this offseason.
It's possible, but if you move Savard and Matheson out, I mean, it is a very, very young defensive core. I'm not a huge believer in you have to have the veteran guy there to babysit everybody. I'm not. I think if you have a really strong organization and you have a coach like Martin St. Louis, you can afford to play your younger guys and not need that sort of veteran presence there necessarily. It's nice to have. I'm not going to say no, but I wouldn't necessarily hold back moving them just because of that. But it is an interesting conversation to have because clearly 5 years discrepancy in age. Yes. So if you're looking at the future projection of the Canadiens, does Mike Matheson really fit into that picture? He's solid now. He's very solid now, but he will get old eventually. By the time that our core is moved up in 3-4 years, Mike Matheson is pushing into his mid-30s. So it might be the time to strike. I just don't know if I would use that chip for Martin Necas. That's sort of what I'm sitting back at. I think Mike Matheson is in a very, very good place, and he's a very attractive piece to use, packaged with perhaps the Winnipeg pick and something else to go and pry that Dave superstar that he wants from another team.
And that's the point. Is like sometimes you're so tunnel vision on, okay, what's going to take to make it work this trade, and then you take a look and you take that package and you look and you say, what can I add to it to get a better player than what I'm doing here? And to me, it's just like, again, it would be a good move, a solid move. It's just underwhelming to me again. And it's been years of this, years and decades of just these middling players that come in and they're good. Don't get me wrong, and they're good additions, but like eventually you have to take the next step, and that's what you have to do, to me, in my opinion. And you have to figure it out. And maybe we'll talk about one later on in this episode. But I mean, there's other names that you can go get, and it's always going to be a risk, or it's always going to be a gamble. That's what trading is, man. You're rolling the dice on life, and it's just like you can't just keep settling all the time. Unless
it's called Necas to settle.
I also don't know if I would use the word settle, but he is certainly not the sexy piece to come in that I would imagine everybody would want. He's not a Matthew Tkachuk. You know what I mean? Like when that, now to your point, Vito, he picked this place. Yes, I understand that. But like, that's the kind of thing. He's not a Jack Eichel. He's not those kind of guys. Again, they chose their places. I understand your perspective. But to Dave's point, I guess if you throw enough money and enough, like, you know what I mean? Enough pieces at somebody, they'll part with them, possibly. And I guess really it comes down to who's your target. So it's
just funny because like we talked about Kuzmenko earlier in the season, all right? He hit his 70 points, and then Vito's like, he's not a 70-point player just because he hit him once. Necas is a 70-point guy just because he hit him once. They also have they also have very similar numbers this year. I think Kuzmenko, I just looked, had about close to 50 points in 72 games, and Necas has 53 points in 77. But somehow in Vito's
it's also the on ice product. Like you look at Kuzmenko, he's a one-dimensional player. Necas has many aspects to his game.
That's fair. It's fair. Obviously, they're different players and they're different components. But it's just, to me, it's the way. It's like the Montreal, it's like, and it's not typical. It's a typical Montreal Canadiens like fog of being stuck in this mediocrity.
I find Dave, you're grabbing certain players that Montreal has acquired in the past and putting Necas in that same bucket. But what last player has Montreal acquired that's been a 70-point player or has hit 70 points? It's always been these 40, 50 fringe guys that are middle six guys that they'd be a good on the team, but hey, we couldn't get the superstar, we couldn't get a top six forward, but we got
Josh Anderson at the time was a top six forward. There was no argument about him playing in the bottom six. Like, he was a top six forward.
But there was question marks around him that people were even suggesting on a contending team he would be an ideal third liner. Martin Necas is not an ideal third liner. Martin Necas is a top six forward. They put him on the third line because they got Jake Gensel. They had Tara
because they're a cup contender and they have a ton of talent. That's what it is, man. That's the reality of it. Josh Anderson could have been a good third line player on a cup contender. Necas is an actual third line player on a cup contender.
You mentioning Josh Anderson, and it's funny because I think it was Arpin Basu who hinted out that Josh Anderson is actually a player that Carolina could be interested in because he would fit into where they're still going. But I'm not saying that they're going to trade for him, but he's a player of that style and physicality when he's able to bring in the playoffs that they kind of have been interested in him.
I get it. It's just, to me, like, look, I'd be happy if they got Necas. Don't get me wrong. And I think it would be a good addition. I just think at what expense does it come out? It comes at expense of assets that you can move to get somebody else. It also comes in the sense of a roster spot that you could use on somebody else. And maybe shifts the focus away. Maybe you kind of settle on Necas and you don't go and try to get that extra spark of a player that you can get further on. So to me, it's just the question was, should it be a priority? The priority? No. Can it be a priority, and can it be a good move that works in a perfect off season amongst other moves? Fine. Yes, please.
I think if Montreal comes out this offseason with Martin Necas, and hopefully they draft with the 5th overall pick a very talented forward, and whatever free agency. Like, I think there's a perfect blend that we can be all like, okay, I'm satisfied with this. Yes. Do I want them to hit a home run and you look and you say, 100%. I still think that a
I don't
market.
believe you.
You don't believe me?
I don't believe you. I don't think you have I don't think you have your sights aimed that high. I think you're just happy with the
Are you
underrated.
suggesting, Dave, that I want to be one of those guys that just tank every year because I want that first overall?
Listen, a couple things. Hold on a second. A couple things. I tried to do some quick searching to Vito's question. When was the last time they traded for a 70-plus point player?
Thomas Vanek. No.
Max Domi was the last one I saw. And then after,
and he got it with the Montreal Canadiens.
And he got it with the Habs the first time. He never had it prior, and he's never had it since, which is, again, another outlier. But again, to come full circle on this thing, as it pertains to Martin Necas, we all agree he makes the team better. He makes the team better, and his cap of probably $7 million is digestible. It's not ideal, but it's digestible. The bigger problem is he's well sought after by the other teams in League Two, and it's going to cost probably too much to get him. Yes. I think that's where I'm landing on this thing.
Well, that's
I want him, but I don't want to give anything to get him, is the problem. But they got to do something. So now I ask you this. What about, I'll call him a reclamation project too. It's kind of a la Newhook and Doc. It's a interesting point on the player. So Patrick Laine has also been out there. He's been talked about. Very different kind of player in a very different place, both professionally and personally. That said, he comes back, he starts the season, he's in the offseason, and the word's out, he's back, he's feeling good again. He got the help that he needed. He's out there. His stock is obviously a little bit lower than it's ever been before. Do you try to take a flyer on a guy like him and bring him in to see if you can catch lightning in a bottle there for obviously cheaper than it would cost to get Martin Necas?
You want me to go for this? Okay.
Okay. Who's starting?
You.
Okay. So I just don't think that Patrick Laine has a lot of upside, especially in the goal scoring department. He has some flashes. The thing is, I just don't think he's a player that fits into the culture that they're trying to build. You can see that they're very tight knit. He's more, from everything we've seen, he's a bit more of a diva, a bit more flashy. He's already, he's been injured a lot. There's a lot of question marks about his health. He just went on that player assistance program too, and I'm not judging that at all. I'm just saying that there's been a lot of baggage that comes with Patrick Laine. And I think that if you're going to go give up assets that are still going to be quite, you're still talking about Winnipeg's first and other pieces to probably get Patrick Laine. I just think that if you're going to spend that, or you're willing to spend that on a reclamation project, as you said, then I'd rather have more of a sure thing and spend a bit more, or spend that package to get somebody that doesn't have as much of a baggage as Patrick Laine does.
Okay.
It's fair.
All right. So first off, you compared Patrick Laine to a reclamation project a la Kirby Dach and Newhook. Newhook's career high in points when he came to the Canadiens was 33. Okay. Like, how is that the same? Patrick Laine.
So, okay. Hold on. Before you start going after me like that, let me clarify something. So reclamation would be the guy was at a point of high, dropped, and you're trying to get him back up.
Okay.
Doc and Newhook never quite had the high. They never got there because of XYZ reasons.
And he's already been on two teams. Been on two teams.
Okay. So okay, maybe mistermed, but obviously the stock is low. That's what I meant more to say. Low stock, get him to try to get him to where he needs to be.
Patrick Laine was a point-a-game player not this past season, the season before. 56 points in 56 games. The year before, 52 points in 55 games. Also, arguably, a point-a-game player. He shortened seasons because of injury, but he's still a point-a-game player. He's a 3-time 30-goal scorer. He's had to hit 44 goals, I think, in one of the years. He's a former second overall pick. This guy is huge. He plays well. He's a goal scorer. That being said, obviously, if you're the Canadiens, you have to do your due diligence. It sucks to say, and you're not supposed to say this out loud, but why was he in that program, right? Why was he in? You have to do your due diligence on that. What's affecting him? Why did he get traded from Winnipeg? What was the deal there? What was actually going on? What's the story behind it? You figure those out, and you're able to to make it work within your culture, I think it's perfect if he comes here. I think there's a lot of guys here that can offset the weight. This guy, his goal would be to be a goal scorer. His role would be to score goals. He could do it. He's proven he could do it. He had 26 goals in 50-something games just 2 seasons ago. Like, I don't think that it's that crazy to me. The cost is high, obviously, in terms of his salary. He has a bigger cap hit, but that's something I'm willing to overlook and do it because it's only for 2 years, I believe. I think there's only 2 years left on that deal, and then after that, you could renegotiate. And I don't think it would cost too much to get him. I don't think so. I think you could probably find a deal there because of everything you guys just said. I just think it's crazy that you wouldn't make it a priority if this guy, you do your due diligence. Again, everything has to be what happened mentally there. But obviously, he still has a skill. It's not as if he went to Columbus and dropped off, man. He was a point-a-game player there. Like, I don't get the, we're going to pass on him mentality. Other than if you think that he can't move past his issues. But I'm a strong believer in players being able to move it, and I think the Canadiens are an organization that can make it happen because they're obviously well structured and they have the right people in place to make it happen. But you have to do your due diligence. But like, it's not fair to really talk about that because we don't know. So in terms of a hockey player, 1,000% sign me up for Patrick Laine. It's absolutely.
But his health issues that he's had over the years, because I know you call him a point a game player, and yes, for the most part, he's put up close to a point a game in a few seasons. I would say he's more of a 70-point guy, could potentially be a 35, 40 goal scorer.
Yeah,
but his health issues are for the last 1, 2, 3, what is that? About like 5 seasons.
Yeah, he's had some issues. But who's to say?
He's 26 years old, and his body is already gone through.
I get it. But what again, that's where the due diligence comes in. Like, who's to say what went into that? Was the conditioning off because of an issue? You don't know what goes into these type of things, and I don't want to speculate. But a lot of these guys, who have off ice issues, it tends to bleed into their workout regimen. It tends to bleed into their so that if you could get past that, right? If he's really getting better, the skill is there. There's a way to overcome health issues in this sense. So that's
he's got a very big cap. That's a factor. It's a factor. So part of the trade, you're going to have to do some gymnastics there because he comes in and becomes the highest paid player on the team at $8.5 or $8.7 million. It's massive. 2, there is the history of injury. It's a fact. You can call him point a game all you want. Fine, if that's how you want to look at it. But the fact remains the man hasn't completed a full season in 5 years. That's a fact. That's another issue. And it's an issue plaguing another guy like Kirby Dach on our team, where we're still waiting to see if he can be the guy, but we don't know because he keeps getting hurt, which means there's only so long that you can sit back and wait before you have to pivot and go elsewhere because some guys just happen to be injury prone. Now, you got Laine. I don't know if they're shopping him. I don't know if they're likely entertaining options, and calls and stuff, but I don't know if they want to trade him, hypothetically. I haven't really heard Columbus saying, or any rumors out there. That said, you look at a guy, and he was the guy that came to my mind when Dave was talking about go and try to grab a superstar caliber player. He has it in him. He was drafted 2nd overall. The guy is a legitimate scoring threat at all times on the ice. It seems like he has, like you say, he has something going on, and hopefully he works himself through it. And if you do the due diligence and you're comfortable with it, and if I end up reading one day, I wake up and I see the Habs made a trade for him, I'll assume that they did all of that work to know in advance. Yeah, I think that would be a monster acquisition. I'd be all on board making it happen, but you'd probably have to give up some things.
I just want to say that Patrick Laine definitely has the sexier name than Martin Necas. Okay, that much we could all agree. Matt, Dave, everything you guys said about Patrick Laine, I don't disagree. I would be super excited if they did acquire him, but I would have this. Well, you don't have to believe me, but I'm telling you, I would be excited if they got Patrick Laine. Because you, just like Mark, you know where he would slot in. You just know that he'd be a fit and all from on ice perspective, and in terms of the lineup, he'd be a fit. There is some question marks about, like I said, the culture, the baggage he comes with. Those are concerns I would have. So I'd be like super stoked that they'd acquired him. But immediately after my excitement subsides, I would then be having those question marks and just crossing my fingers the entire time. And then I'd be also crossing my toes to hope that he doesn't get hurt, and that this injury trend that he seems to have doesn't continue. Because he's been hurt longer than he's actually been playing.
But hold on a second. To be fair, the last season, because it is dawning on me, he missed a lot of games not because of injury, but because he was in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that too.
Yes.
No, he's been injured. We saw it. I know it. I know he's been injured, and he is almost to the point where you call him injury prone. But last season was a bit of an exception. He lost probably the bulk of those games.
To the point. He is injury prone. He's injury prone at this point. When you've had a career, you're 26 years old, you came into the NHL at 18 years old, and you've been hurt or away from the ice, whatever, longer than you have been playing, you're injury prone. Until you can prove it otherwise and figure things out, you are injury prone. You fall in that bucket. It's not like this guy played 6-7 seasons, and then 5 of the 7 seasons you saw his productivity, got bad luck, got hurt, and he's been out for 2 years.
So you're basically saying you're a belt and suspenders guy. You'd prefer the money that, let's call the money a wash, even though it's cheaper with Necas, hypothetically. You'd prefer a Necas to come in who could maybe get 70s and stay in the 70s, or maybe he falls off and he's a 60-point player, but what have you. You know what you're getting. You're comfortable with the guy. Everything's cool there, versus swinging for the fences on a Laine that might actually take off here. So
I think that somebody like Laine is going to, when his cap's up and all that, he's going to cost $10-11 million, and we're going to have an LTIR guy. We risk having an LTIR guy. Now, we risk that with everybody else. There's always that risk that, because Laine is injury prone. I think that with Martin Necas, you're getting somebody at $7.5 million who could put up similar points when healthy too, or whatever, as a Patrick Laine. Not as many goals, but he slots into Montreal too. And I just think that this guy was doing it on a third line and could still produce. Again, the real problem in all of this is, what is it going to cost to acquire them? And I just think that somebody like Necas, you're going to lose a core piece or a key piece that we're going to need. And you have to pay to get. I get it. But I just don't think there's a match with Carolina from a trade perspective, albeit there's a match with the player in Montreal. And then with when it comes to Laine, it's not the team that I think they could negotiate and make a deal there. I just don't see. I don't know if Laine is the right fit on the other aspects outside of off the ice with Montreal.
Right. So a couple of points. Again, to me, I think if I'm looking at it, and again, I have to do due diligence and whatnot, but the off ice issues and the injury prone, they could go hand in hand. They could be linked. So I would obviously look into it and look at what's going on there. Secondly, what's the point of having a good culture? You build this insane culture in Montreal with good guys. Marty St. Louis, bring in Vinny Lecavalier. If you're not going to take a risk on guys who fit outside of the culture, any team could do well with guys who are just straight arrows and button down up to your shirt and perfect guys for the night. The point of having a good culture is you could bring in these wildcats and tame them. That's the whole point of the culture.
But not every player can be tamed, and not every
come on,
player is coachable.
Okay,
but sorry, just quick though. But you've seen Patrick Laine, and you've seen the way he dresses and a little bit of his eccentricities that he has. He's been in the Winnipeg market and the Columbus market. So imagine what's going to happen when he comes here.
Okay, so if you've noticed the Habs players, the Habs players, the way they dress, who's wearing the hat, who's wearing the flashy suits, that aspect, I could see it fitting in. Do I think Laine could come here and end up having fun and all of this is a wash? At the end of the day, he's been in 2 organizations under certain coaches that it's been a little bit on the rough side. Like when you're looking at it and you're saying, John Tortorella, the crap that was going on, that was rumored to be going on in Winnipeg, all those things, I can get that he got fed up. But that doesn't relate only to the injuries. This guy's had some pretty significant injuries that took him out.
Okay, hold on. But we cut Dave off. Let him go back.
I just want to finish the one point is that I think our problem here in Montreal and the problem with a lot of this fan base is the love of potential. Okay. Everybody loves potential. Potential, reclamation project, potential, prospect. That's all you hear in this. That's people love prospects more than they love. And that's why you'll say no to Marner. You'll say, Austin Matthews once put his pants down in Phoenix to a security guard. Forget him. Why not? Forget him. We have potential coming up. And it's no, constantly proven guys. And look at the last 2, look at Kovalev, who came in, an established superstar. It works out when it comes to Montreal, man. It works out. They perform here. Look at Radulov when he came here, okay? Radulov came here. He was a proven guy. They brought him in. He had a great season. And then you knew it was going to be an amazing season, and it didn't work out because he went to Dallas. Who knows what the actual story is? There's a ton of stories. But again, when they bring in these guys who are proven commodities, it ends up working for the Canadiens. It's very
on contract years, trying to use the Montreal so that Montreal can set their agents can get more money.
They've been proven that it works when you bring in proven commodities, and that's why it surprises me that the fan base never wants to go after any of these guys. Never. It's always the Josh Andersons of the world.
It's the cost.
The Ken Johnson. Go get Ken Johnson. Go get Nika. No other team cares, man. You think the Vegas Golden Knight fans are like, I don't want to get Alex Pietrangelo. What's it going to cost? What's it going to cost to get Alex Pietrangelo? Jack Eichel, forget it. Too expensive. Well, look what he is in Buffalo. No other team fan base does this. Go get the best players available. Make it work within your system.
There's only one player whose name recently came out, but we're not going to dive deep on this because the general manager already came out and said it's nonsense. There's one player today that I would trade quite a bit of cards. Brady.
Never going to happen, but yes,
it's not going to happen. But he's the kind of player that you just grab and say, "This is a playoff guy." This is like, okay, a lot of penalties.
Finally, something we can agree on, Vito. Obviously, but
he's a guy. I look. He's with it. He's definitely the age. He's the character. He's the guy who should have probably been drafted him or Quinn Hughes instead of KK.
That's what kills me about it. The second I read that false rumor, I'm like, oh no, no, please don't make this be a thing.
But that's the guy that I'd say if Montreal, if there's a way to acquire this player, and look into it. Look into it. Really take a deep thought and see because he would be a game changer on the Montreal Canadiens. A lot of penalties, though. A lot of penalties.
Yeah. I'm just
3 years in a row.
I'm coming back to the sort of thing about like we're throwing out the names like the Dave just said there. Now of course I'm stumbling my words. What's his name? Eichel that got traded, right? And Vegas hasn't had a first round pick in I don't even know how long. Maybe since their inception, right? They just fire off those first round picks, give us guys in and everything. So if I ask just a silly hypothetical, just ridiculous to you, Dave, ridiculous. 5th overall pick 1-for-1 for Laine. Do you do it?
Hell no.
It's tough. Probably not. No, probably not. Because first off, the other issue with Laine that you have to remember is that he only has 2 years left on his contract, and then you're kind of just. I probably wouldn't do it 1-for-1. I'd have to make it work a lot better than that. I like Laine, and I think they should be going for him, but I'm not willing to give it up 1-for-1.
How about this? Again, I'm just making this up, and I'm not. Before anybody comes at me in any comments, I'm not saying I want to do this. I'm throwing it out there as hypotheticals. 5th overall pick and Josh Anderson for Laine.
No.
And maybe a prospect coming back so you can get that contract out.
The 5th overall pick with a draft like this that is supposed to be very talented and all that, you're getting him on the cheap for several years. Laine's going to be 28 by the time this contract is done, maybe 29. It's going to cost a fortune.
You have a crystal ball. Do you have future sight? Odds are in your favor. They're going to pick someone at 5. He's going to be really, really great. But
I'm not trading that 5th overall pick for Patrick Laine.
I would never do it too. But like at some given point, if you could put pieces together, like you have albatross contracts that are on the Habs that they would be desperate to get rid of. If you could find a way to package that to go and get a guy that you would actually want on the team who might flourish here, who might be a 40-plus goal scorer here.
I'd be doing that for a bit more. There's other players other than Laine. Like Laine comes with his question marks. Like, and as much as again,
I know, but you got to pay to get.
I know.
Even at Patrick Laine,
I think what Dave's about to say.
Get someone with less question marks.
Exactly. I'd look for a player with less question marks for 5th overall pick.
Do you could probably have any off the top of your head?
It's tough because we're not in we rely on rumors and who's available and whatnot. But I mean, I'm sure there are players that are available. We see them move all the time. These top elite talent that come out of nowhere, these trades that come out of nowhere where these guys are moved or within a small window, like 8 days. Oh man, he's in the rumors and then he's traded. Like it happens all the time. You have to have your finger on the pulse. We're not insiders, so it's hard.
No, of course we're not insiders, but I just think back on the big ones that moved that we're circling our fingers around. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk outright said, I will not re-sign with you guys. It was leaked and everything. Move me. Jack Eichel, I don't want to be here anymore. Move me. I mean, these big name guys. Goudreau, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go back to the States. Move me. it's when they don't want to be there, suddenly you see this activity happen. I don't remember the last time a superstar, no question marks, proven, was just acquired through a blockbuster deal that just happened out and worked out that way like a hockey trade. Especially in today's day and age where everybody has a no-move clause.
I have a terrible memory, but I will go and find one. Okay,
if you can, or if anybody in the comments would like to leave one to let us know, I would love to have my memory refresh on the last time that this happened, because the only time I can think about it happening, and again, you gave up basically a superstar to get it, which didn't really fix nothing. Thinking from a Canadiens perspective, was PK for Weber. 1-for-1 swap. There you go. But who got more ahead there? You know what I mean? Like, you can make your arguments to one point or another, but you're looking to find a trade where you could put a bunch of pieces and prospects and picks to bring in a superstar without necessarily losing a big piece of your own. When was the last time that happened?
The only guy that's coming up on the rumor mill, and again, it's the same player I just repeated. He's coming up on the rumor mill. The GM keeps squashing it, but it's like 2 years in a row now that there's something there. Now, is it true? We don't know. And is it? But some of the more reputable insiders are starting to come out and bring up that name, and it's Brady Tkachuk. And you know what? I have that conversation for him for the 5th overall pick. I'll have that conversation for him.
I will as well.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't think one. I think he's got a no move clause.
No, he doesn't.
It hasn't kicked in yet. It's next year.
It kicks in next year.
Okay, it kicks in next year.
Because which is honestly, why I think some of the smoke that you're seeing is about that, is because if they have to make a move and make a massive package with new ownership and all that,
totally fair. I mean, would he fit here?
100%.
Like peanut butter and jelly, baby. Like, absolutely. I don't know if he'd want to be here because for whatever reason, 4
more years regardless.
What about so just a little bit of research just to touch back on the thing. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I mean, Taylor Hall being moved from out of Edmonton randomly on a random day in the middle of
it was the same day as the PK thing. But again, that was like 1-for-1 with Adam Larson.
Okay, but I mean,
and it's a ridiculous trade that probably should have never even happened.
Tyler Seguin, before his career really launched off, he got traded
for what? Do you remember?
It was a terrible package.
Oh yeah, I remember. Louis Eriksson was involved in there.
Also, not a superstar at the time of his trade.
Oh, he was. Come on, he was. He
won the Stanley Cup. He had won the Stanley Cup.
He'd been on a team that won the Stanley Cup. Was he the Tyler Seguin that eventually he became after he moved?
He was a third-line center, and he was drafted 2nd overall. And it was Taylor versus Tyler. He was very close to being selected 1st overall. Tyler Seguin was a big name when he moved, and it's crazy to think about.
He had already produced
into the Boston. Yes,
big name. I'm simply saying, would you put him on the same caliber as the Jack Eichel and the Matthew Tkachuks of the world of when those trades occurred? Was he at that level?
Hold on a second. The Matthew Tkachuk, again, context, right? Context matters. Matthew Tkachuk, like you said, outright came out and said, I don't want to play here.
That's what I'm saying. With you. You can get these guys when suddenly they say, I want to go where I want to go. And then they twist the team and they're forced to do it. You can keep looking. We're not going to let the podcast keep going while we look for this. We'll see if we can find something, and we'll post them in the comments or post them on social media to see the last time this happened. But if it takes this long to kind of even think of a guy, it means it doesn't happen often.
Okay, so it doesn't happen often. Just make it happen, man. That's the point. You're a general manager.
I would love to make it happen, but it doesn't happen. It's tough. It's a tough thing. Anyways, the point is, there will be something that's going to happen.
You know what the thing is, though, that you're undervaluing, Matt, and that what usually happens is it will start with a conversation. So like Ken Hughes will pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I want to get Kaprizov." Let's just say, okay? Let's just say that happens. It won't happen. I'm just saying. And then that's when the rumors start, because that general manager reports back to his secretary, and his secretary goes home and tells somebody, and that person calls, and now it's all of a sudden Kaprizov is being shopped out of Minnesota, and within 10 days, that deal is made. But really, that deal came out of nowhere. It's just, we know it because everything gets leaked.
We're not insiders, but we're insiders.
Exactly. I'm not saying no, and I'm sure he's calling all the teams, and he's calling up players that he would see. They sit down with his staff, and he goes, "Find me a main guy on every team. I'm going to call every team and see if we can make something happen." I'm sure he does it. I'm simply saying, when you sit back, to not give up your core, whatever. I don't want to name them, but let's say that the Habs have like 6 core guys. They're the 6 guys that any other team would be like, yeah, give us those guys. And they're like, nope, you can't touch them. We'll talk anything else. I don't think they have enough stuff to give to go get a bona fide superstar to bring it back. I just can't see it.
Player out of your core, man. You can give a player out of your core. I'm open.
But if you do that, like at some given point, you have to weigh the dollars and cents against it. And like, where did you get ahead? You know, okay, you got maybe 10 more goals out of the player, but you had to give up draft picks and a core guy, like let's say a Caulfield hypothetically, and you had to give up, a top defensive prospect, and all you've netted was 10 more goals. Is it worth it at that point? And I would contend that it's not. You want to get the superstar and you want to pay the littlest amount possible without addressing your core, which is still obviously a tremendous amount, to get them. And that's why you got to do the 5th overall. You got to package Winnipeg. You got to give your top defensive prospect and maybe something else.
But again, the 5th overall, I'm open to trading that 5th overall.
So am I.
I'm just not giving him for Laine. That's what.
No, not for Laine. Okay. I'm not saying no.
And we're on the same page. Yes, of course. That 5th round pick should be open for business for anybody who wants to give me a superstar. Take it. I don't care, but I need a superstar in return.
Yes.
Laine is a question mark.
It certainly wouldn't be for Laine. I wouldn't do it for Laine at all. But to your point, yes, I would absolutely. And I know, back to Vito's point, it's a deep draft. High expectations of the top 10 of this draft without question. You got these guys that everybody's talking about with the Demidovs and the Lindstroms and the Ginlas and the Senekes and the Cattons and the Yzermans. And you could go on and on and on about this top forward potential that's happening there. But I want a guy who's proven. I like now. I would like to get a guy who's proven now, not necessarily to make them competitive immediately next year, but to lock them down. You know what you're getting. You're getting a bona fide superstar. You don't have to wait 2-3 years to see if the kid materializes or, God forbid, something happens to them. You just know. That's kind of where my mindset's at. Now, put that aside. Nothing materializes. They keep the 5th, and we'll talk about this likely in the next episode, who you guys want at 5th. I'm sure I'm going to be very happy with that as well. So to me, at this given point, it's a pivot of a win-win. I think it's very exciting no matter what. And there are many names out there. We didn't even talk about Jonathan Marchessault. That's another name that's out there.
We spoke about
Well, we spoke about him last time, but I mean, it's another name that's coming up. And then there's guys out there that are like, oh, you want another guy like a Daka? Kent Johnson is another name that's out. I mean, there's a lot of these names that are out there.
There's a name that has circulated. It's died down a little bit. It's Clayton Keller.
I would be a big fan too.
Not for the 5th. Not for the 5th overall.
Not for the 5th. Oh, no. Not for the 5th. I don't think Clayton Keller is superstar. I think he's a tremendously good player, and I would put him. I would go. Actually, I'll say this much: I would take Clayton Keller over Martin Necas. I would do that. If the trade was about the exact same thing, I got to give up the same to get either or. Give me Clayton Keller over Martin Necas. I would say I would go for that without question. And you got the whole Utah thing happening now. Maybe they want to do something, a big splash, and they want to get something and give me another first-round pick. Yada, yada, yada. So that's exciting.
I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Keller over Necas, I would do the same thing. I just don't think there's a chance that it's going to cost the same thing.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very expensive. That said, though, we're winding down. We're finishing off the conference finals. We're getting close to the Stanley Cup time. Once that's done, it's full steam ahead to the draft. Then right after that, you got free agency. And then once the dust settles, I imagine we're going to be seeing a new face on this team. I really do. I don't think they could go in offseason without bringing somebody in.
No, Matt, the smoke is there. Everyone's talking about they're looking to make a splash.
Yeah.
And it's a question of what? They're looking to bring someone that's going to be an impact on this roster. We don't know what it is. It's exciting to hear that because it's finally you can start to see the pivot of this rebuild if that's what they're trying to do. Before was let's get rid of contracts, and I still think they're working on trying to get rid of contracts for sure. But before was like the first 3 years we're in the rebuild. We're going to be losing, we're not adding. It's going to be more subtraction than addition, and all of that. Now it's like we're looking to make a change. We're looking to add something. We're looking to make a splash. These are the types of things that you're hearing on X and on social media and all that. So it's fun. It's fun.
So that's going to be my takeaway question for those that made it to the end of this rather longer episode of the Get Puck podcast. Who is? I don't care about what it would take. Let's not even play that game. Just in general, to you guys, our listeners, throw a name in the comments as the one that would be the splash, the big player that you would love some way, somehow. The Habs are able to pry away from another team to come onto the Canadiens and likely be that superstar that we've been craving for many, many years in this market.
And tell Vito why it's not Martin Necas.
Hey, maybe it is Martin Necas.
I never said that he would be the superstar. I said he'd be a very good fit.
He would be a good fit. It just he's too expensive. I just think he'll be too expensive.
Is he a splash?
He's a splash. He's an impact. He'll be an impact, but he's not like he definitely doesn't fit the description of like the superstar. You know, like if you're going to use the parallels or the comparisons of Jeff Gordon when he was in New York and got Panarin, it's not the same thing.
Okay, well, obviously,
you know what I'm saying. That was not. Come on, that's a different thing. But
he's Martin Necas is equivalent to like a small child doing a cannonball. It's a splash, but it's not a full grown man doing the same kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's varying degrees of splash. It's not calm waters. Yeah, I'm happy. If they make it happen, I'm happy.
It's like mom and dad are like, yes, good job, amazing.
I'd be like, yeah, that's very good, very good. Hopefully it doesn't cost too much. Very good. Panarin, you go nuts. That's it.
This is what we're ending the episode on. A kid jumping in a pool.
I'm saying there's different degrees of splash. It's not splash or nothing. There could be big splash.
Vito has nothing but kids making small splashes in the pool. That's his favorite type of pool. He keeps his pool ruly.
My goodness. All right, gentlemen. Thanks very much. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listening. I got to end this before we get into other weird analogies. I don't know what's happening now.
I don't know. I don't even know if we should. What was that?
Don't worry about it. My goodness. Thank you so much. Keep an eye out. Social media, if you haven't already. Please like, subscribe, that whole jazz. And for Vito and Dave, I'm Matt. And this was Get Pucked.